You know, I think that actually all gets to the question that you have here, that the philosophical underpinnings of pro-business is one thing, free market is something different. So how do you make that distinction? Because that's how you're hearing the, you know, picking winners and losers versus just opening up the market.
Well, you should know I am a free market, a student of free markets. I'm a big believer in free markets. That's what eBay was. I mean, eBay was the ultimate free market, where we were building, you know, your next door neighbor had an equal chance of success to a large corporation built on this entirely new platform. And when everyone optimized their own business on eBay, it optimized the entire platform. What we did is we kept taxes, our fees, to a minimum. We had a small number of rules. We enforced those rules, and we watched entrepreneurs come and, I mean, actually eBay provided the trading platform. It was our users who built eBay. I mean, actually, the analogy is very good for the long-term vision that I have for California. When we started eBay, we didn't have a $20 billion budget deficit that we were trying to tackle. We didn't have a cost structure that was unaffordable. We had a startup. And the truth is, this is more like a General Motors. You know, I did a turnaround at Hasbro, where you have some existing conditions that you have to deal with before you can simply do an across-the-board tax cut and watch the grass grow. The truth is, we've got some work to do, in my view, before we can say, okay, now we're going to do an across-the-board tax cut, which I deeply believe in. But the truth is, you've got a government we can no longer afford here. I promise you, I think we can take $15 billion out of this cost structure. We'll have a stronger state, not a weaker state. And so my view is we have got to do this before, we've got to get the costs under control before we do an across-the-board tax cut. And in the meantime, let's hang on to some of the jobs. You know, and I think this will sound simplistic to you, but sometimes the simplest ideas are the most powerful. I think we should have a digital billboard outside the governor's office that shows how many jobs every day, every week, every month we're losing to neighboring states and we're losing to India and China. And then why are we losing them? Who's doing what to whom? And how can we keep this from happening? And it's fascinating. You know, I talked to the CEO of Northrop Grumman, who's a friend of mine, and I said, did anyone from the state actually call you to engage? I mean, they've been thinking of moving for 2.5 years. This was not wake up on Monday and say, hey, let's go to Virginia. The answer to that is no. And so it's easy to figure this out. You know what the top 10 industries are. You know who your top 1,000 companies are. You know whether they're expanding, whether they're contracting, who's buying who. I mean, this is not complicated. And you've got to have an economic development team that is on this. And at least evincing interest at a very minimum. And the truth is, we don't act interested in businesses in California. We just don't. And not relative to a Texas or Nevada or Colorado or Utah. And, you know, I saw this personally on eBay. I used to get a call once a month from the governor of Utah, the governor of Colorado, the governor of Texas saying, hey, you know, if you're thinking about putting a new development center in, we'd like to compete for that. If you're thinking about a customer support center, we'd like to be on the list for that. And we don't ever do this. And we haven't had a good economic development team in the state of California since People's.
And, you know, I'm not sure that's vital to